What's up, guys? It's Ruse here with The Real Masculine, and I have one of my former coaches and friends, Chris Wilde from Social Prime, here with me. How you doing, Chris?
Pretty good. It's been a little bit of a tiring day. Came home trying to chill, and I actually haven't done any of these. I haven't done a call like that in a while. So it is a little bit. I don't know. Like I feel a little bit rusty, but we'll see.
Nice, man. I'm feeling a little nervous myself, but I'm excited to have you on and just share some ideas with you and just hear some of your perspectives on a lot of the stuff that you taught me and that you teach guys today. And I thought we'd start with some of the basics. Like, tell me your perspective around the emotional exchange that happens between people, and specifically men and women. Like, what's actually happening in the communication between us as beings, and what makes emotions and the exchange feel good or not so good to women when we interact with them?
It's a really good question. For the guys that don't know, like me and Ruz actually haven't talked in a long time. It's been like almost a year now. I actually haven't been following that much, so it is a very good opportunity to catch up and see how much you've evolved as well since then. Now about the question, it's interesting because I was discussing just not exactly the same topic, but just like a similar topic with some friends recently. And I was just about to also write an article about that. The article was specifically about the sort of like the difference in the way of thinking of the average man versus the average woman, because there is no absolutes, of course, not everyone is the same. And how you can achieve effective communication between those two. And one of the things that I was going to talk about, because the article is still not published, I got to finish it up, is that men tend to be a little bit more rational in the way of thinking. And I mean, we call it rational. We have our own logic. Women have their own logic, but we kind of let's kind of call this rational, kind of like rational way of thinking. And things tend to stick a little bit further in time, like long term. Like I think that men have naturally the ability to look a little bit more back into the past, connect experiences, connect memories, and then project an outcome into the future. While women, I don't think that they have the same way of thinking. They're more like into the emotion of the moment. Like in men, you have an idea, you have something, you have an outcome that you can project in depth of time in the future. Although you might not necessarily be in that emotional state. So it's kind of like it sticks, those ideas and whatever you project in the future is a little bit more sticky in a man's mind, regardless of the emotional state that the man is in. While for the women, this gets all the decision making, all the decision making and how they act and the thing in the moment is very, very largely affected by their emotional state. And that actually has been a little bit of a misunderstanding when I get students on program, and I tell them to be honest, right? Because this is one of the main, I wouldn't call it one of the most main concepts. People have this understanding that the primal honesty is like the number one thing we do. No, it's actually just a tool. But I tell the guys to be honest, and they get a little bit confused. They're like, okay, but with this logic, then I should go up to the girl and tell her, hey, I want to have sex with you. And truth is that this is honest, but only up to an extent. This is like sort of like half the truth, because the man can project this idea in his mind. You can look forward into the future. You can see the image of the bedroom. You can see you and the girl in the bedroom. You can see you and her like on each other, like kind of like talking, and then it's getting passionate, and then you start, getting. Let me turn this off. You decide to. No, you see the image. You see what you project into the future. What would possibly happen between you and the girl, and you actually can imagine a little bit the emotion that comes with it as well. But if you go up to a girl and you say, "Hey, I want to fuck you. I want to have sex with you," the girl doesn't have the same ability in that moment to picture the thing that you're picturing in your head, because she's not in the same emotional state. So you have to communicate this thing with the emotion. You have to make it the full truth. So if let's say you go and with dry logic, you tell her, hey, I want to have sex with you because that's what you think, that's what you project in the future that you're supposed to do. Of course, it's not going to have an outcome. It's not going to have an outcome. It's not going to have any effect. It's not going to get through because there is no emotion behind it. But if in that moment you're legitimately horny, you're aroused, like your dick is hard in your pants, and you look at her in the eyes, like deep in the soul, and you kind of like play the scenario in your mind as you're talking to her, you imagine it like as if you live it right now and then in that moment, and you tell her, hey, I want to fuck her brains out with that vibe, with that energy, with the emotion, also supporting, like with your whole soul supporting what you're trying to say, then this is gonna actually have an effect on the girl. You understand? I mean, you already know why. This is mostly for the guys that are watching this.
Yeah, she's able to receive your feeling through, like, because the feeling itself takes over your sub communications as well, right? When you feel horny and turned on, you feel it in your loins, like your gaze gets kind of a little softer, it's more penetrating. You might have like a bit of a cocky smile, and your voice might just get a little bit deeper and more rhythmic. Like all these things change, and she can tell there's congruence there. Like, oh, he's actually turned on by me. And when she can feel all that, it connects to her, and she can receive that. And now there's an emotional connection. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, you know these things already, but this becomes the whole truth. If you go and try and logically say what you think or what you project that is supposed to happen, that's half the truth. And it doesn't have an effect in the communication with the women. Women need this emotional communication. They need to feel the emotional state that you project in your mind into the future. So, yeah, like men don't realize that because they tend to think in a way, and they think that this way is the only way of thinking. They cannot easily imagine the emotional way of thinking that women think. They have a hard time kind of like empathizing with this. So I hear a lot of men around me say, like, women are crazy. They have no logic. They're irrational. They're not trustworthy. They don't keep their word because girls might flake on you the like last moment just because they just don't feel like it. And I'm like, no, dude, no, focus. They have their own logic. They have their own rationality, but you just can't understand it. But this is not if you're a man and you have this like rational way of thinking, it's not like you're not condemned to that. It's something that you actually can cultivate. So a man can cultivate his emotional intelligence. He can cultivate this sort of instinct, this sort of the ability to speak not from the head, but from like, I don't know if you can see it, but from here, from the gut, from the soul. You know what I mean? And this is the reason, like, guys actually cannot communicate with women because they don't know how to utilize their emotions. They're used to talking with their rationality to other men, but they kind of like, it's in the upbringing. Maybe you were raised to think that being emotional is bad. Maybe you were raised to think that expressing sadness is bad, or expressing vulnerability is bad, or even some families expressing happiness is bad. Like they didn't want their kids to be happy. Like, like you're having fun, like shut the fuck up. I'm having a headache. Don't laugh. And I mean, I bet you do a lot of similar work with your guys nowadays. Like you work on emotions, is that right?
Yeah, I think the crux of what I do is I'm looking to help them not get good with girls per se. Like that's definitely part of the program, but is to use approaching and talking to women as a way to reconnect with all of their emotions and change their relationship to them. I'm not trying to help them get rid of their fear or get rid of their sadness, but to connect and actually have a good relationship with those feelings. And by doing that, they can feel all of their feelings in the presence of women, which makes you better connected to women. You can connect better with them now.
Yeah, exactly.
That makes you more attractive.
I've always said that each emotion is like, imagine you're playing a video game like an RPG, and each emotion is like a skill point. So every extra emotion that you have unlocked and completely like unblocked within you, and you can feel and express and just like live through it, is like an extra skill point when it comes to dating and social skills. The more emotions you have unlocked, the better, the more successful you will be with women.
Yeah,
if you're like,
I love that.
If you're like, like kind of like angry or grumpy guy, then your range is very limited to girls that are kind of like this, you know, where they're a little bit bitter, they're like going through shit in their lives. And then maybe you unlock other emotions later, like higher, kind of like higher vibration, quote unquote, emotions like love and courage and other stuff. Then your range kind of like expands with how many people and women you can connect with, and it becomes like more and more effortless, obviously.
Yeah, I love that. I love that analogy. The one I use is each emotion is like a musical note, like on an instrument. So like when you can unlock or master one of those emotions, you can play more music, you can play more melodies and be like a better musician basically of life. So I love that analogy though. It's like it's very accurate. Like you unlock your powers through connecting to your emotions, and you therefore have a broader range of what you can bring into your world.
I like yours. Yours is very artistic, and mine is kind of like the nerdy explanation.
Yours is like the masculine, like let's gun everything down, let's blast everything, let's fucking beat the video game. Yeah, no, that's awesome, dude. I love it. Tell me what you feel is the thing that gets guys to like, what stops guys from like doing this? What stops guys from, going out and actually connecting to their emotions? Like, what do you think is like the biggest barriers that block them? And addition to that, what do you think are like a couple things guys can do to immediately start getting better at it?
It's the answer to the first thing is obviously fear, and unfortunately most guys are not even aware of that, because those fears, they were created at the very early stage in their lives. And when some shit goes in your head, something happens in your life, and then you just don't address it, it just kind of like sticks there forever and it plays in the background. So maybe they developed some of those fears very early in their childhood. Maybe a very super typical example that everyone has heard multiple times in their lives, and so many coaches talk about that, is the phrase "men don't cry." So, your mom is having a migraine or something, and comes back from work tired, and you're just, crazy happy little kid, 5 years old, and you run around, you sleep, you hit your head on something, on some furniture, and then you start crying. And then your mom is gonna tell you she doesn't want to go through the crying. She's having her own shit going on. She's gonna tell you, you should stop because men don't cry, right? If you're a man, then you're not supposed to cry. But the problem is you can't skip an emotion. It's not something that you can skip. You can't avoid feeling it. You can't make it disappear. It's like it's an energy, You can't make energy disappear or appear out of nowhere. And then it's the same thing with the emotions. You can't make an emotion just disappear. So what you do as a kid is you try to not express it. You try to not to hide the sadness or the pain or whatever is making you cry in the moment. And then maybe you think that's gonna work. Maybe you think that's gonna make the emotion go away, but it's not. Excuse me, it's not true. The emotion is just not gonna go away. It's just gonna push it in the back of your head, and then it's gonna get stuck in there forever. And together with it, get stuck the idea that, oh, if I feel this way, or if I act in the way that comes with this emotion, if I cry when I feel sad or in pain, then I'm not a man. I'm not enough. I'm not good enough to be accepted by my mom or my family or society. And then this kind of like this idea is planted like a seed, and then it just grows and it starts affecting all other areas of life. And then you start from a very early age, maybe like 5 years old, to suppress the emotion of sadness. That's just an example. And you go in for like 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, some people even more, with this emotion of like pain and sadness just trapped in the back of your head, playing in a loop. And that for example, stops you later. Maybe you go on a date and it stops you from sharing something painful with a girl, some bad experience you had in the past. Maybe it prevents you from sharing something that that you feel sad about. And that cuts such a big part of the emotional range and the emotional communication, that it's basically as if the girl speaks like another language, or you speak like maybe two similar languages and she understands you, but like not fully. You get what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And I know, in doing this work myself, like I catch myself in these loops frequently, like, and it's interesting. I want to bring this up because I get this from my clients a lot, and I'm sure you do as well. A lot of guys that work with coaches, they think these coaches have these auras of like invincibility or perfection, of they figured it all out. And while I think we've done like a lot of good work and are further ahead, we still go through these same mental loops and patterns as well. We just have better tools to be able to deal with them now, but it still happens to us too.
Dude, it happens all the time. This is like a never-ending trip.
Yeah.
Like, I started doing a very interesting exercise that, your guys can do it as well.
Sure, love to hear it.
And it's about finding patterns in my everyday life, in my behavior, or behaviors that I had in the past. Could be anything. It could be something like that has been in my life long term, that I had since a teenager, for example, or it could be like something that I just did yesterday, like a new little behavior. I met a new person and like a new little behavior came up that comes from validation seeking. Just sitting. The pattern is basically, if I do the XYZ thing, I will get the XYZ kind of validation from somebody else or from a group of people, right? Let me see if I can find a couple of examples. I gave this exercise to some students and some friends, and the results are actually very nice. So, for example, every time I don't, okay, maybe that's not the best example. But like, yeah, for example, maybe sometimes in my business, I'm trying to make money, but it comes from a place of just trying to prove to my family that I did something right. You get what I mean?
Yeah.
It's very common, for example, in guys, when they interact with girls, that they tend to agree too much on a logical level, at least on the surface. They tend to agree too much with a girl in fear that if they disagree, they will lose her attention, and therefore the validation that comes with it. Another very, very characteristic example that I had especially in the past, and it's still some little behaviors like that still show up like from time to time, is that instead of in the presence of a girl that I consider attractive, I will try to behave the way that I think she finds attractive instead of actually behaving the way that I want, in order to not lose her attention and the validation that comes with that attention.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's one. That one still affects me at times as well. That's the very same one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. It's a very, very fucking common one. Like, almost everyone around me has it to some extent, and it's just like I can see it coming up in little moments, and even I do it, and it's like it's crazy because you do some of this little bullshit and then you become aware of it. And then you're like, oh shit, like I just caught myself like basically bullshitting.
Yeah.
And then you gotta kind of like take a step back and like be honest about that, and then be like the real you. It's very funny.
Yeah, it's constantly catching yourself. And I think that segues into the second part of the question I asked you, which is like, what are some things guys can do to make improvements in this area? So like, I think one way you just talked about is like bring awareness to some of these validation seeking patterns that you have going on in your life. Like, be honest with yourself and write some of those down. When I do this X, Y, or Z, I'm seeking X, Y, Z type of validation. And I'm connecting those two things together so that in the real world, when I actually run into those situations, there's some awareness and space, so that when I see it, I'm like already aware of it and can actually take a step back, either express it honestly or actually let go of that behavior and come back to being real and authentic again.
The ultimate goal of primal honesty, because people think, oh, this is the goal, the primal honesty is the goal. No. The goal is not to be honest for the sake of being honest, definitely. It is to cultivate to cultivate this emotional acceptance. And that is the ultimate goal. Awareness equals acceptance, and acceptance, of course, equals awareness. They go both ways. So ultimately, you just want to bring awareness to all those suppressed emotions, acknowledge them, admit that they're there, admit that they exist, and then allow yourself to feel them, allow yourself to accept them as an equal important part of you, and integrate them with everything else. It's like you have a little conference in your head, like a table, and all those little versions of you. One is angry, one is sad, one is happy. All those like different little characters. They're you. They have to sit down on the table, and they all have to have sort of like an equal say, an equal vote to the decision making. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's multiple things that you can do when it comes to emotional acceptance. Well, countless methods. In Social Prime, you know, I don't know if the guys know already, but we work a lot with resolving trauma from the past,
Mm-hmm.
going to the past, checking to see where this suppression started, where the limiting belief started, and then take maybe a different perspective on the memory, take a different perspective on the event that created this little seed, this limiting seed. Changing the perspective then changes the attitude towards the emotion, going from fearing that you might not be good enough, going to the idea that, oh, okay, whatever, sure, I'm not good enough, whatever, doesn't fucking matter. Psychedelics.
Yeah. Speaking of, I recently tried shrooms and ayahuasca in August and in December, and both were very good experiences. I've only done one of each, and they were awesome. They were very eye-opening in their own way of embodying. You tried?
I've tried a lot of psychedelics. I've done ayahuasca. I've done lots of psychedelics.
Yeah.
The experience has been 80% wonderful and something like 20% the pit of hell.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's all part of the process. Like one thing that the psychedelics do is some of them will sort of force you through those layers, emotional layers that you're afraid to present to yourself. So it's like you're thrown in the ocean, and then waves are coming, and you have to gradually learn how to surf the wave. Like the wave is the emotion that comes, and then you can't change it. You can't go against it. If you try to go against the wave, you're gonna drown. So the psychedelics is kind of like they throw you in this ocean, and then you have to learn to swim with the momentum of the wave, right? So yeah, responsible use of psychedelics can be a very good thing for unblocking emotions. It's so many methods. Yoga, apparently, I'm not I do have respect for yoga, but I haven't tried it myself at all. I know that specific body positions and specific, I don't know, like there's muscle tension, there's tension like that is piled up on the body,
Yep.
like all those emotions. They're not only on a mental level. There is the energy centers in the body, and some emotions are locked into there. So maybe like anger is very associated with the area of the stomach.
Yeah.
If you have a lot of suppressed anger, a lot of piled up anger, it usually appears as a tension like right above your stomach, like on the gut. And it even causes psychosomatic problems like digestion issues. Like I had that for a while. It's like everything I would eat would just fucking, like I would get a horrible acid reflux because I had some suppressed anger or resentment in that area, and then I had to figure out where that is, put the attention on the body, on that exact spot, let myself feel it. Yoga is very effective on that when it comes to the body. What else? The trauma.
Meditation.
Yoga, yeah, absolutely. Oh, dude, how could I forget that?
I was like waiting for you to say it. I was like, where's he gonna come to?
Yeah. How the fuck could meditation not be like number one or number two? Obviously, it's because it's obvious that you forget it. Yeah, meditation is absolutely one of the simplest and the best, and from the ones that have the most consistent results, I would say. Only thing with meditation is that I've seen people, and I mean, you might have an answer for that because I don't. I've seen people who've been practicing meditation for years, and they're still lost.
Yeah, I have an answer for that.
You have an answer for that?
I do, yeah. So I look at meditation as practicing awareness and your, observation of your emotions in a very safe environment, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's practice. It's like as if you ever played sports in school. I played basketball. We practice in the gym before we play the real games, right? So
Yeah.
if you're practicing in the gym, you can make mistakes. Everything's okay. Nothing counts for anything in your mind. There's no like nothing is going against you or for you. It's just practice. And then the game is like real life. When you get into the real life, you have to apply what you're using in the meditation on the safety of that cushion into real life, because life is just a walking meditation, like shit's going to hit you from left and right. It's chaos. And if you're not practicing the same thing you're doing on your mat or your cushion in real life, you are basically going back to your old patterns without observing, relaxing your body, letting it flow through you. Then you're going to be lost. And I know this because I'm guilty of it.
Is that the guys basically they get the right answer during the meditation, but then when they go out in the real world, they sort of forget to apply it, or they forget to keep the awareness of it, right?
Yeah, so they're practicing it in the safe environment and they get it. But in the real world, like when it comes to game time, they fall apart. They don't actually apply it in the real world. They lose sight that everything that happens to you is personal development, is meditation, is life flowing through you and allowing you to process. So they're separating meditation from life instead of making life the meditation, the entire
Okay.
meditation.
Yeah, I can see that. I was wondering is like maybe they're just like doing it wrong. Maybe they're just like sitting there, but they're not becoming aware of their thoughts. I'm like, what the fuck are they doing? What the fuck are they doing? Because like I know guys that have been meditating for years, right? But yeah, it's an interesting perspective, and I didn't thought about that. I thought like, okay, you're doing meditation, like something must go well in your life. Like it didn't make sense to me.
Yeah. They might feel a
Wow.
little bit more calm just from the practice itself. Like when they're doing it, they might feel a bit more ease and grounded. But if you're not applying it in the real world where it matters most, where you're not in the safety of your room in the cushion, you're actually in life, going through life, flowing through life, then the main effects of it are not going to be fully realized. You only get a small percentage of it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So it's like the guy that learns all the theory and meditates but doesn't go practice it in real life. You're not going to see the results of it.
I mean, this is a little bit of a side topic, but I got another question. I would like your perspective. What do you think, guys? Like, is it possible, Ruse, to fix everyone? Let's say client comes, is it like, it's a hard question. Like, what is the percentage of responsibility that goes on the coach, and what is the percentage of responsibility that goes on the client, on the student?
Yeah, good question. I think they have two different but crossover responsibilities. There's some crossover between the responsibility, but in general, their responsibilities are also a bit separate as well. So I look at what's crossed over is like the honest communication. So the feedback loop, the accountability, the understanding between each other's relationship, and helping them, guide them through this tunnel, this path to get to where they want to go. That's where like there's a mutual responsibility that's equally shared. But then separate from that, there's a complete responsibility on one side from the coach to teach and apply what he's doing himself for himself, and teach that accurately and effectively to the person, to be able to understand and ask really good questions so that the person that they're working with feels understood, that feels like they're actually becoming more aware of themselves, and to create really safe space for that person to be able to open up and really show
Definitely.
themselves. These are all the coach's responsibility. On the other side, I think it's the student's responsibility to come in with a really open mind, to surrender that he doesn't know and he's seeking counsel. So he has to surrender what he thinks he knows, and that's his responsibility. He has to surrender to, okay, I don't know as much as this person. I'm going to trust that he knows better than me. So I'm going to be open-minded to receiving what he has to say, and I'm going to apply it without expectations. I'm going to apply it and see how it works. So there's a responsibility of the student to take the action, to have an open mind, to drop their expectations, and to openly communicate back with the coach. So I think, so there is some crossover, but there's some separate responsibilities that both have to take to make it a really impactful transformation.
Do you agree on the perspective that there is some people that are just not ready?
Yeah, I do. I've actually come across a few guys that, for example, they joined my program. I told them what it's going to take and how I told them, this is fucking hardcore shit, man. This is not easy. There's going to be pain and there's going to be discomfort, and you're going to choose it. You're not going to be a victim to it, but you're going to choose this new pain and discomfort. And that's the only thing I can guarantee you. I can also guarantee you that your mind is going to fuck with you. You're going to have assumptions come up. Your stories are going to come up. All the shit's going to come up, right? And this is good when it does, because this is every time it happens, it's an opportunity to change your relationship to these parts of you. And if you can do these things, you will have amazing results. And I'm not going to tell you what those are, because I don't want to plant seeds in your head, but you will have some amazing results that I can't tell you specifically what they are, but they're going to be awesome.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right? But that's all I can promise you. And I tell them, at some point in the program, you're going to hit these, and they're going to hit you hard, really hard. And you're going to want to quit. You're going to want to say, fuck you, Ruse. This doesn't work. And when that happens, you should come talk to me and express all that to me and get it off your chest. And guys are like, yes, I understand. And you know, one or two out of every maybe 12 or 15 guys, they get to that point and they completely break down and they quit. And I'm like, look, I know every part of your being is telling you to quit, but you need to go deeper inside yourself and like take some space. I'm not trying to keep you as a client just to get you to pay me. I'm trying to tell you, this is the breaking point where you can actually go over to the next level. And, you know, a lot of guys, not a lot, but a few guys, you know, maybe 10, 20% of guys, they just, when they get stuck there, they get completely blinded by it, and their doubt and their assumptions just completely overwhelm them. And I look at it as, they're not bad people. They're good guys. You know, they really do. Part of them wants to get there. They're just not ready yet. They're not at the point, and that's nothing against them. They're just not ready.
What do you think? They didn't have enough suffering to get tired of their own bullshit?
Possibly, you know, possibly that.
I kind of see this way.
Yeah.
I really kind of see this way. I mean, for me, somebody has to like go through enough shit to finally like getting tired of doing this shit to themselves.
Yeah, of course. That's how it happened. That's how it happened to me, man. Like I kept doing these things that didn't work. And it was because a part of me, and I think this happens to these guys as well, and it's why I have compassion for them. A part of them actually doesn't want to change, and they're just not aware of that part, right? They're not super connected to that part of them, and they haven't really integrated that part of them and made peace with that. That like, hey, there's this part of me that actually wants to stay where it's at because it's scared and it wants to be safe, and that other world seems like out of control, chaos. And if you don't connect to this part of you and you know, give it what it needs, give it some love, give it some acceptance, hold its hand and walk it with you to the next phase, then it's going to fight you tooth and nail. And so you know, I've tried explaining this and helping guys realize this, and a lot of the guys get it, and they that's why they can make the progress. But you know, a couple guys, they're not ready for it.
Did you read the post I wrote? Because I wrote a post very recently. It was exactly, the title was, "You don't want to get good with women." You know?
I did read that post, and I agreed with it completely. I loved it. It was because it was so accurate, and it resonated with me because I saw it in myself, and I see it in all these guys. You know, it's a very common thing that, you know, very simple example is you see a beautiful girl, and a part of you really wants to meet her and talk to her. And then a part of you is like, fuck that. She's scary. I don't want to meet her. Like, I don't want to have the responsibility of having that girl. You know, these two parts of you that are equally talking. And if you don't connect with that part of you that wants to stay safe and help it, you know, feel that it's okay, it's safe to do this, then it's going to fight you. It's going to be a drag on you entirely until you accept it and integrate it. It's going to make it difficult.
Absolutely agree. a lot of guys see their ego sort of like an enemy, and they try to fight against it. They resist it, right? They resist. They try to go against it. It's like, okay, now the fear tells me don't approach a woman, but like I'm gonna do it anyway. And it's good on one level that they're taking the action. But one of the things that they don't understand is exactly as you said, that this part on the first what is it called, on the first sight, sort of, it appears like it's trying to go against you to like fuck you up. But on a deeper level, it's there to try at least to offer you some sort of value. This is the thing that those guys need to realize. Instead of going against it, they need to go a step back. They need to see how this part of themselves tries to protect them, tries to give them this value, tries to do something good for them. Hear it out. This is the thing that we were saying before. Acknowledge it, admit it, hear it out as an equal mate, sort of, and then decide whether that one has that part of you has legitimacy or not. Right? You understand what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
But you need to give it the full shot, the full opportunity to voice out its concern.
Totally. It's so important because it's like this part of you is the same part of you that felt suffocated as a kid, right? And it's like it's reaching out to you. And if you do the same thing as the people like your parents that you felt were suffocating you, if you do the exact same thing to that part of you, you're just reinforcing that same dynamic relationship with yourself. So you have to change that relationship to that feeling and actually give it permission to speak to you, give it permission to voice its emotion, to share its feelings with you. And you being a healthy parent or healthy mature part of you, allow it to do that and be present with it, and treat it like the parent you wish you had. Like the child parent relationship that you want it to have should be more like the one you want it to give it, right? And then it starts to feel like, okay, it's safe. I'm heard. And then it starts to like calm down and relax, and you can start to relax. Then you go in front of the girl, it's not so bad.
Let's make it a little bit more scary. Like, a simple way to put it is like the guys that are going to watch this, you ask yourself, what if this absolutely like fucked up, horrifying fear that I have is 100% like completely true, right? It's like, what if I am not good enough? That you take your time, you take a few minutes, you sit on a chair, you relax, in isolation, low light, and you ask yourself this question: what if the fear that I am not enough is actually true? And you just wait, and the answer is going to come from it's going to start like bubbling up from here, from within. And it's an interesting experience. A lot of guys will probably not manage to do shit with that, but some of them whose awareness is quite good, this might give them an answer. A funny little experiment to try out.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, I think it forces guys to embrace the worst outcome, and if you can handle those emotions, then you're okay. You're fine. Mm-hmm. You're fine.
Surrendering completely to the inadequacy is pretty scary.
Yeah.
I've done it a few times. Damn, this is a scary feeling.
Yeah, it can be. And actually, this is a good segue to another question I had for you. I wanted to get your thoughts on. A lot of guys, and I say this from my own experience before I actually had some reference experiences that told me otherwise. A lot of guys think that expressing negative emotions, and I put negative in quotes because I don't see emotions as bad or good, but unpleasant emotions that, feel unpleasant, sadness, anger, inadequacy, or shame, they think it's unattractive. They think if they share these things with girls that it's going to push them away. So they have this fear around expressing these emotions. Tell me what are your thoughts on that? And I think this also goes back to the original question, this emotional exchange between men and women. When it's honest and it's real and it's completely felt, why does it feel so good, even if it is the lower emotions? Why do women receive it as like a positive experience?
The thing that you said that guys do, it's a horrible mistake. This is because guys have been conditioned to believe that only specific emotions are acceptable to express, to feel, to live through. And they think that only a specific emotional state is attractive, right? Very, very typical example, a guy very recently in a discussion in my group in the comments wrote, He broke up recently, and he's in a shitty emotional state. That's normal. That makes sense. And it's like, oh, but I find it exhausting to go out now and try to meet other girls while my ex seemingly got over me fast. Like, I want to go out to meet other girls, but I find it exhausting to try to be this happy, playful guy in the state that I actually am. It's like this state of pain. I'm like, dude, like, you do realize that what you just wrote, right? You basically wrote that you find only this happy, playful state attractive enough to women. And I'm like, no, this is not true. I've picked up girls. I've had amazing, mind-blowing sex, like crazy connection when I was like grumpy, when I was angry, when I was like sad, when I was like feeling super lonely. I've had like crazy connections with women in the whole range of emotions, from like the worst of the worst to like the best of the best. What is attractive to women is not a specific emotional state, but the ability of yours to be okay in whatever emotional state. And this is the most, probably the most clear answer that I can give to that creates attraction. What creates attraction? It's your ability to be completely okay and in complete acceptance with any emotional state that you could possibly be in.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. Actually, the way I explain it to guys is that you're not actually just expressing the emotion, or you're not just sharing your sadness. You're actually sharing your acceptance of that emotion by being okay with it. And so you're actually, the feeling that she gets from you isn't just your sadness. She does feel that. She does feel your inadequacy. She feels your shame. She feels your grumpiness, but she also feels your acceptance of it. And acceptance is a higher emotion.
Exactly. Now, if you're expressing the sadness and the pain, but with an expectation to get something back, like some sort of validation or some sort of sympathy, or to like just put yourself in the position of the victim, then that is actually unattractive.
Yeah.
Because there you're not completely honest. You have this hidden expectation. You have another hidden emotion. Maybe you're expressing sadness, but there is the emotion of inadequacy, and you're trying to make the girl give you sympathy, right? Yeah. That's a big no-no. It's the correct answer is to express the emotion with the full responsibility of that emotion instead of putting it on to somebody else, right? And even anger, anger is a big thing. Like for me, like I'm quite good at it. I'm quite good at accepting anger. I'm quite good at expressing anger, and anger is one of the emotions that sort of gives you a backbone. A lot of guys are afraid to express anger because they're worried of possible consequences, or what is going to happen. Like, a guy is going to beat me if I tell him to fuck off, or if I tell the girl like something, if I get pissed, something really, really horrifying is going to happen. And there is, again, two types of anger, and that ties to the thing that we just said. There is anger that comes from a toxic place. There is anger that comes from inadequacy. There's sort of like anger that when you're butthurt. Somebody stole your girl and you're like butthurt because you don't feel actually good enough. So it's not anger that you're feeling. It's inadequacy, actually. It's inadequacy and pain. And then it gets expressed as anger because you don't feel comfortable to express the actual inadequacy or the actual pain. So you just go to the next thing. It's anger, but it's fake anger. It's not real anger. A real anger, pure anger, expresses boundary. Like frustration expresses boundary. So somebody does something that is disrespectful to you. Somebody talks to you or treats you very badly, not because you deserve it, but because, I don't know, maybe they want to prove something, or maybe they want to make themselves feel better. They're just trying maybe to put you down, to boost their own ego, some shit like that. The actual healthy thing in that situation is to fully express that boundary. And anger is the emotion that communicates that properly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's very, very typical for guys in the community. I already mentioned this example. They're too nice, or they're supplicating, or they're trying to behave or they're trying to avoid any confrontation, any sort of confrontation in any way with a girl, because they're afraid that they're going to be rejected or lose her, or lose the validation, the attention, whatever. But long term, this is actually hurtful. It does them harm in their self-esteem, because when you get stepped on again and again and again, and you're afraid to express your frustration or your disappointment or your sadness. It could be a lot of things that you could be feeling in a situation where you're taken advantage of. Long term, you sub-communicate to yourself that I'm not good enough. I actually deserve to be abused by people. You know what I mean? So I wanted to make a specific mention to anger, like because it's an emotion that everybody thinks it's like bad, but it has its place and it has its time. Like every emotion has its place and it has its time. And the same with sadness. I have actually cried a lot of times in front of girls. Maybe I'm sharing something hurtful about my past. Maybe my bad years with my family, some shit from the past. Maybe something about an ex or something. And I've actually I've been open with the sadness. I've cried about this event. And that comes again to the acceptance. It's the acceptance of whatever emotion that you're feeling in the moment that makes it okay to express the emotion. It could be whatever, from the most horrible emotions to the absolute best emotions.
Awesome, man. Yeah, I love it. I think you're spot on. And I thought we segue this into, I noticed that you have rolled out a new program recently, a new immersion it looks like it's a one-on-one immersion with you. I'd love for you to share what that is and what that entails for guys. Are you taking on clients, I'm guessing right now, right?
One more time?
You're taking clients on right now, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so tell us about your new program for, anyone that wants to potentially do work with you, like where they could find you, where they could reach out and schedule a call with you, and tell us about the program itself.
Yeah, man, I actually really appreciate that you're giving me the opportunity to talk about it. It's actually not that different from the immersion that you did, like back in the day. I know that your round was not one of the best that we had back then, but it's basically the same program, but it's more condensed and it's one-on-one. So all the attention is on you. Before the ratio in the program was like on the highest was like 2-on-1, 2 students per coach. This is only you with a coach, so you have completely undivided attention. So it's shorter, it's 8 days out of the 15, but it's actually the same amount of time, but there is no divided attention, it's all on you. And since it's not in a group setting, it's even more customized. Like the immersion was already very personalized to whatever you guys needed in the moment. That is even more personalized. It's like laser pointed on exactly what the person needs. The criteria to join this is even hard, is even more tight though. It's very strict who joins. It's the first and only program we do that has a clear no refund policy, no what is it called, no payment plan. It's because we want only the most serious people. So you need to be able to find the funds and just commit to it fully. So this is it. This is an investment I'm making. There is absolutely no way I'm getting it back. So the only option, the absolute only option, is to go full on, right? This is it. And we wanted the most committed people. We wanted the people that were ready to put everything aside, work, relationships, whatever, career, money, everything that they have. We want the people that are ready to give everything. And that doesn't mean that anything will change. Maybe you don't actually have to give up your job. You're not gonna come out of the immersion. You're not gonna go in a businessman and then come out some sort of like enlightened hippie that goes in a cave.
Right.
So no, you're not gonna like quit your job afterwards to go like be whatever. But we wanted only the most committed, and those were the 3 traits, because we actually did a little bit of we looked at all the past students, and the students that were the most successful had some very specific traits, and those were commitment, an open mind, and taking responsibility for your own progress. I probably remember them right. It was those 3: commitment, open mind, and taking the responsibility for yourself. Next good thing with the program is that it can be in your city. So you don't have to travel, you don't have to get the accommodation cost. And the other nice thing, which I found works very well with people, is that when you do it in your city, you have the opportunity to get rid of all the triggers that are anchored to that environment. You understand what I mean?
Yeah.
Because if you go and do the training in another city, then you feel automatically, just because the environment is different, nobody knows you, you don't feel as much pressure from society, you don't feel a lot of the patterns that you grew up with in a specific environment are just not there. So yeah, maybe it's a more fun experience to do it in a different city. Maybe you feel more free right off the bat. Maybe you have more fun during the process. But later when you go back to your city, there is a decent chance that a lot of those environmental triggers, they're gonna hit you back. You get what I mean?
Yeah, I do. I experienced that myself. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody who has done it out of the city hasn't experienced that. I remember when I quit smoking, and then the next day I go to the club, and I'm in the smoking area because that's the only place where you can talk to girls. It's like I hear like little voice in my head is like, oh, maybe you should take a cigarette. Oh, that's the right moment for a cigarette. Oh, where's your pack? You don't have a pack in your pocket. It's like, oh, maybe you should ask someone. You don't have a pack. Ask someone else. I'm like, holy fucking shit, man. Like the first 2 minutes in the smoking area were like crazy. It was like bombarded.
Yeah, I bet.
It is the same when you go back to your city. It's like it's gonna hit you even harder. Like, oh, the girls here are harder. The girls in your city are always harder. Like people here know you. If somebody sees you doing something socially like unacceptable, like even more people will know it, and then they will get a bad reputation. It's like all this kind of like little shit. So those are actually quite easy to get rid of if you do the program in your city. So that was like a little bit of an advantage. But yeah, it's not that different from the regular immersion. It's just more laser focused, more undivided attention on you, and a few like small advantages. Other than that, the rest is the same. Now, if somebody is interested in that, they just shoot me a message here on Facebook, and I'll get to them as soon as possible. Very simple. I guess this video is going to go on Social Prime as well. So tell the guys a little bit about your work. What do you do with your clients?
Yeah, so my program is really focused on very similar to what I think the core foundation I think of what we both do is very, very similar. I do my programs over either an 8 or 13-week course. And I have an online course that they'll follow that takes them through a journey of helping them reconnect to each of their different emotions, helping them learn how to let go of their attachments, let go of their old identities and limiting beliefs, and use a very, foundational and just simple concept of enjoyment, grounded, authentic expression, just saying what you feel and how it is without a filter as a way of connecting with people.
It's more. It says product. Let me get it right. So it comes with a course and then also some custom coaching, right?
That's right. Yeah. So there'll be one-on-one coaching every single week with exercises each week to help them each week increase the level of tension to get them from where they're at, where they start, into where they want to go by the end of the program. And that could be whatever they want. If they want to just feel more self-esteem and confidence in themselves around women and just have 1 or 2 dates a week, it can be customized for that. If they want to have a girlfriend and find someone that's just a meaningful relationship, it can be customized for that.
It's more general. It's not just oriented towards dating. That's right.
Yeah. So it's specific towards dating, but the tools it gives you is for every part of your life. And I do incorporate things that would help them enhance their attractiveness. Really what I'm helping them do is be attractive. And what I look at as being attractive is, like we talked about, unlocking each of your emotions, making a good relationship to each different part that lives inside you, going out and doing things that you particularly enjoy for your own enjoyment, doing hobbies that you like to do, building a strategy of going out and meeting girls around things that you love to do yourself or where your ideal girl hangs out, being a lot more kind of laser focused and choosing to live your life in a more meaningful way that through your own enjoyment, you're going to project out into the world a more attractive version of yourself by choosing to live through your own enjoyment and enjoy the types of women you like, express what you want to express. You're just going to have this momentum of higher self-esteem and higher level of self-confidence by choosing a different way of living. through enjoyment and acceptance and filterless fucking conversation, you know? So it's really focused on that.
I love that you actually went in depth about the essence of the program. I was just talking about the logistics of mine, you know. But yeah, dude, that's a fucking good explanation. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I kind of assume the people in your group like know what the fuck we do. Know, like, okay, all right. And who is it for? Like, what is the best client for it? Best.
Yeah, I think the ideal guy, similar to what you said, man. They're committed. They're ready for this change. They're done with the life they're living with, and they're done with being a victim to their pain and their emotions, and they're ready to take responsibility. So if you're a guy that falls into those categories and is willing to come in and accept that no expectation you have is going to be met. The only thing that's going to be met is you are going to choose a different life, and whatever comes of that is whatever is going to come of that. And it could be something beyond your wildest imagination. But if you can accept that and take responsibility and choose that life, I want to work with you, because I think you can do some amazing things, and you will come out far greater than you ever expected. And
I think you have a very, I'm a little bit jealous of that. I think you have a very healthy audience. My audience is a little bit mixed. A big part of my audience comes from like a more old school pickup paradigm. And some of those guys are like Jesus fucking Christ. I don't even think about it. But I guess you have less of them. But if you've thought about doing the immersion, and you're somebody who's looking for sympathy, or you're somebody who's looking for a replacement father or mother figure, or you're somebody who is just doing this as a part of your self-help identity that you've built for yourself, you know, that you're this self-help guy. Like, no, I don't want those people. I really don't want those people, because like there is a lot of them.
Yeah. You know, and I have nothing against the guys that are in that community. I think they're going through the stage they need to go through to get to the next stage, you know? Because I was in that stage at one point. I know you were in that stage at one point too.
Definitely, yeah, exactly.
We all go through that stage, and if that stage stops working for you, you're ready to like consider a different perspective that's not just all about picking up girls, but learning how to be attractive, like learning how to unlearn what you've learned to be attractive. Then yeah, I'd love to explore that with you and show you a different way.
I had to unlearn a lot of shit, man.
Yeah, this is mostly an unlearning process, you know.
Yeah, it's an unlearning process. That's what I've always told people. Is like you're not coming to us to teach you new stuff, like new layers to add on what you already have. You come to us to take away layers.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's an unlearning process, actually.
Yeah.
Good that you mentioned it. I love that.
Yeah, dude. Well, Chris, I really enjoyed this conversation, man. Thank you for sharing all of your wisdom with my group. I know they'll be excited to hear all this and hear from someone that's accomplished a lot in a very short period of time. And I really enjoyed this conversation, man. It's great to catch up with you.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. I actually regret not catching up earlier.
Yeah,
it's been a long time.
Yeah, we should do more often.
Yeah, and I think our audiences are very close to each other as well. Yeah, exactly. Maybe we could do something similar a little bit more sooner in the future, rather than wait for another year.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, man.
I'd love to.
Nice. All right, it was very nice to you, nice to talk to you, and I hope everybody in the group enjoys this. All right.
Awesome, brother. Thank you so much.
Thank you.